December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
On the morning of December 7, 1941, the United States was brought into the Second World War after the Japanese surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. The shock of the attack spurred Americans to enlist in the war efforts. The Homefront was instrumental in the success of the war, and the people of Fitchburg were outstanding in their efforts to aid not only those overseas, but also in the community. On the Homefront in Fitchburg during the war, ration cards, coupons, and stamps were used to monitor the consumption of a wide variety of goods. Each member of the household was issued a ration book. Ration booklets included labels for canned foods, instructions on how to use ration books, and coupons for rationed items. Any attempt to use someone else's ration cards or forge fake copies resulted in jail time. Meat, cheese, fish, and even butter were all limited due to the rationing. Among the common food items that became scarce, a few other commodities also started disappearing, including shoes, typewriters, rubber, stoves, and gasoline became rationed as well. Gasoline ration coupons were the most frequently stolen or copied of the ration goods. In 1943, a Victory cookbook was released. It contained recipes tailored for food shortages and gave advice on how to conserve ration points and make food last. Geared towards women, it emphasized the importance of being a good housewife, as well as promoting cleaning products and supplies. It advocated one-dish dinners, which would feed the entire family. Coming up with clever ways to make food and goods last longer was a priority. One way people made food last was to have a victory garden, also known as war gardens. They were used to help reduce the burden of public food supplies. Victory gardens were so important to the Homefront that the Department of Agriculture released an informational film on how to maintain a victory garden and get people motivated to start one. Fitchburg held several successful war bond drives and campaigns. Individuals and companies alike were considerably generous with their purchase of war bonds. The 8th Victory Loan Drive in 1946 was particularly successful. Walter E. Woodruff, the chairman of the Fitchburg Finance Committee, said Fitchburg exceeded the overall city quota by 39%, raising over $6 million against the $4.4 million expected. The newspapers were crowded with advertisements publicizing the sale of bonds. Fitchburg High School, the library, banks, and various local businesses all hosted programs or promoted the sale of bonds. On February 4th, 1941, the USO was founded, further enhancing the success of the Homefront. The goal was to lift the spirits of the troops and their families. During World War II, the USO entertained the soldiers with shows and dances. Fitchburg, at the time of the USO's creation, had the Soldiers and Sailors Club in the basement of the Episcopal Church on Fox Street. When the USO was organized, the National Catholic Community Service took over that operation and moved it to Main Street. The Arthur H. Lowe House, located at Main Street, became the headquarters of the Fitchburg USO Club on April 11, 1943. Fitchburg USO served the enlisted personnel at Fort Devens, the Lowell General Hospital, and the Navy Auxiliary Air Base in Air. Due to its success during the war, the Fitchburg USO was established in Fitchburg Veterans Center, which upheld veterans' privileges under the GI Bill of Rights, helping them and their family find places to live. The Fitchburg USO was active from 1941 through 1946. On the home front in Fitchburg, local businesses and factories did their part in the war effort. Paper machine felts, used to make blankets, became very handy during this time. The Fitchburg Paper Company donated around 1,275 pounds of felt. About 160,000 of these blankets were shipped overseas. Over 250 of the 500 Worcester County-based factories were part of the war effort. On February 9, 1943, Simon Saw and Steel received the Army-Navy Production Award for achievement in war production, as well as the Army-Navy Excellence Pennant from the War Department for having high production levels of light armor plating. The role of women in the military also started changing. The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, later changed to WAC, was established in May 1942. This gave women the opportunity to serve their country. Roughly 10,000 women were trained at Fort Devens and became the first Army post in the country to receive a permanent WAC unit. The women lived in the barracks of the soldiers now overseas. One notable WAC member and Fitchburg resident was Phyllis Peirce. She served as a crypto-analyst tech and Army truck driver, stationed in New Guinea and the Philippines. Ms. Peirce's duties included decoding and intercepting enemy transmissions, as well as driving Army personnel and supplies. She received an award from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in recognition of her service, faithful commitment, and duties during the war. The home front of Fitchburg was not only dedicated in their sacrifices, mainly daily comforts, but in their compassion. In the years following the attack on Pearl Harbor, thousands of Japanese on the West Coast were relocated to internment camps. With fear and racism running rampant throughout the country, the people of Fitchburg reached out. Students of the elderly school wrote letters and sent Christmas gifts to the Japanese children living in the Topaz internment camp in Utah. While these actions were met with criticism, many, including Barbara C. Crocker, felt they were doing the right thing. Ms. Crocker, in collaboration with the American Friends Service Committee, sent care packages and letters to the Japanese families in the camps. Many of these families were incredibly grateful for Ms. Crocker's generosity. One family in particular, the Vegeta family, kept in touch with Ms. Crocker well after the war. They were touched and thankful for all she had done for them. They even traveled to Fitchburg to visit Ms. Crocker in 1968. The war tested patience, toughness, and the will of the residents of Fitchburg, but they rose to the challenge. They made do with less and did what they could do to aid those overseas. Through the victory gardens, the war bonds, the work done in the factories, the home front provided support for those fighting on the front lines. It's important to remember and celebrate the contributions made by those on the home front.